Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Midwest Whitetail After Hours Podcast, episode number 4, season number 2. Tonight, I have with me to my left, maybe it's not left on your screen, but I'm not really sure. I've got Chad Holmes. Below him is Owen and his cameraman Devin. Mike Reed, and last and certainly not least, the Lindsey Way folks, Jeff and David Lindsey. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing
Doing
well.
good.
Great.
Doing awesome.
Awesome. How's the change in the abrupt change in weather been for everybody?
Couldn't be better.
Let's hear
Your
about it.
toes aren't too cold, Owen?
Oh no. We hunted a couple days, in that warm weather, and it was kind of slow. I mean, maybe that last half hour was decent. I kept saying, well, you just got to give yourself a chance this time of year. You got to be out there because you never know what could happen. But they were pretty slow evenings for us. And of course, once we get this weather, you know how it goes. Jeff knows how it goes, I heard.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good night tonight. I mean, it'd been 4 years ago today that I killed that crabs buck down in the redneck blind where I hunted him. And so I went down there tonight just for that reason. It'd been 4 years. I just wanted to go down there like I was going to visit an old friend. Had some history there. And so lo and behold, the deer that runs down there is that wide nine, and he just happened to be down there tonight. So it turned into an interesting hunt in a hurry. Devin spotted a doe down in the creek bottom, and it wasn't long and we seen that wide nine down there with her. And we got some cool footage of them down there in that creek bottom. And pretty soon there, it looked like they fed out and they worked up past the corn where we were sitting. I said, well, there they go. We're not going to see them again. I thought, well, it was a neat encounter, but they're not coming back because there's more picked corn as they go north the way they were headed. And I figured that's where they'd end up. And it wasn't too much longer, and we heard the old combine. He was coming through the corn, knocking down rows. It was pretty cool. He popped out there real close to us, and yeah, we had all kinds of footage of him. He was out there for a long time, and finally, like I always say, I'd rather be lucky than good. I just got lucky. We're in the right place, right time, and I closed my eyes and pulled the trigger. Lo and behold, lo and behold, we got him. So
God dang it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty exciting, man. It's as much as we put into this, and I know the Lindsays will understand as well. I mean, we dedicate our lives to all this. It's a whole lifestyle. And all the times you do that, the number of times you shoot a deer that blows your mind, like frame wise or mass or anything, is so few times. I mean, it happens maybe 10 times in your life. And this would be one of those. The frame is just mind boggling to me. It just blows my mind how big that deer is. So that's really cool.
What'd
Awesome.
you measure us with at the wide nine?
I had him like 24 going off trail picks and stuff, but he's even wider than that. So he's
God dang.
pretty impressive. Yeah.
Oh,
That's something.
need to see a
That's
picture
not
of
too
that.
bad. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You don't see him like that very often.
5 days apart, you're making us look bad.
Oh, yeah. But the problem is, it took me how many to get to the 5 days apart? Like 300, 300.
9 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you out of tags now,
Uh,
or are the rest of the deer safe? Or
Oh, yeah. Yep. I am tagged out. Yep.
till late Muzzy.
Well, I might shotgun too. So I got
Oh, okay.
I got Dad's old side hammer muzzleloader, so I'll be pretty excited to get out there with that.
that'll be
You
fun.
gonna do any doe management with the bow? Or you just gonna take a couple weeks off?
I think we will. Yeah, we were just talking about that. I've got some doe tags, and so why not? We're not worried about messing up the bucks or whatever. So just get out there and kill
Go
some
watch
does
them.
early. Yep,
Get some footage of some other bucks, maybe. Yeah,
yep.
cool. I'm
Well,
anxious to hear
Jeff,
about Jeff's.
Jeff and David, what did you guys experience here with this change in weather?
Well, it's been good up until the last handful of days. Then it got warm and it was still decent in the warmth. But yesterday, when that weather changed, it was, I think, 60 degrees yesterday morning at daylight and looked like it was going to fall like 30 degrees throughout the day. And so we knew yesterday evening would be good. And I went and actually, I don't want to say I slept in, but I went in a little later, about 30, 45 minutes after daylight yesterday, the spot I wanted to get in. I just didn't really care to be too early. And I checked the trail cam on the way in, and I seen a buck we'd called Blue Angel. Just got this big flyer G2. And so he was on the camera a couple of days ago. I was like, golly, you know, I hadn't paid much attention to this deer. It's a big deer. And I started texting my dad, and I was like, this deer is pretty. If I see him in here, I'm probably going to whack him. And so I decided to go back there yesterday afternoon, and I don't know. It's probably about 2 hours before dark. We got alfalfa field. It's a little wood lot. It's got fingers running off of it. It's probably the best rut funnel that I know of or that I've ever hunted in my life. It's just, I mean, first deer he ever killed on the farm. It's just a little 60-acre piece, but it's kind of just down the road from the farm. It's the first deer he ever killed here on this farm. He shot there, and it's an excellent place to call. It's just a lot of stuff going on there as far as it's undulated hardwood bottom, and we seen the buck behind us, and I grunted at him and rattled. He'd look down there, nothing. There was 5 bucks. I never saw the doe, but they were just scraping and then just making circles. But there was a deep ditch there, so I didn't know if there was another buck locked down with a doe or what. And so another one of the deer was pretty mature too, but he never came over there. So deer we called Blue Angel started coming towards us. We knew he was going to get in the hardwoods with us, but he just keeps going. And I said, I'm going to let him, kind of get past our wind. He walked through our wind, and I let him get about another 50 yards. And I was like, Cole, watch him. Cole's cameraman over here. And so I turned around and used my body as a shield and just slammed the horns together. He's like, he's coming, he's coming. So I'm fumbling, trying to hang him up, grab my bow. And while he's saying all that, these other bucks start running crazy. So there's a spike and 2 other 8 points right underneath us. And I was like, oh, these 3 deer are going to get him killed, hopefully. But it's like, I thought you said he was coming. We didn't see that. So we sat there a couple of minutes, and these deer are still chasing each other, and they move off. And he's like, what's this deer at 40 yards? I'm like, I can't see it. And it's about an hour before dark. And, the timber just gets dark anyhow. And this time of year, it's just everything's gray and brown. And finally I see him. He starts sliding into us, and he comes over here, and he gets downwind, and there's a little opening. He stops him, but there's a couple limbs there. And I'm like, I just can't take that shot. 2 more steps, and it's perfect. I'd already ranged this opening like 34 yards. Well, he turns around, and he's kind of downwind of us, but not fully. But the gig's up. He starts to go, and I'll stop him, put it dead on him, and I shot him, and he ran off with my arrow in, and it's like, oh my Lord, did I hit him high and cold? And he runs up there 75 yards and just falls over. Like, what in the world? Well, looking back, I actually deflected, but thank God it didn't mess me up. I think maybe my fletching hit or something, and but my arrow straightened out, but it didn't have enough penetration to go all the way through. I did get an exit hole, but it was just enough to kill him. And we went over there, and it doesn't happen very often that they're bigger than they look on camera, but this was, at least it doesn't me. Usually it's the other way around, but it worked out. He was bigger than what either one of us thought, or as far as just based on trail cams and stuff. So it was a cool deal.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he was 9.5 years old, so that's wild. Wow. When he was older than my son, who's out there getting pictures with me. So
all your kids, huh?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah. So yeah, he's going to get down, and it worked out. It worked out well.
Do you think that either Owen or Jeff? Do you think that the weather played as much of a role as maybe we think it does, or do you think they would have been there regardless? In other words, how much of Mother Nature dictates that, in you guys' opinion? Either one of you can answer, or both of you can answer, or does the weather influence their behavior to some extent?
I think in my case, it was the time that we saw them is going to be different if it was warm. I mean, we were seeing everything later in the day when it was warm. And, these deer were up and stirring early, I don't know, it was probably 3:30, and they were up moving toward food already. So I think the time of the day when we would see them would have been different, but I think you're going to see the same thing, later in the evening, this time of the rut, as far as our hunts went, maybe
Sure.
you'd have seen them at 5 o'clock instead of 3, something like that. But That's my take on it. And Jeff, it sounds like his deal was maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, it was. Even when it was really warm, first of November, we had those good cool fronts end of October, which made it excellent. And I had prior duty, so I wasn't really able to hunt. But the first of November, when it was warm, still the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes, I mean, we were having some good hunts. It just wasn't all day like what should have been happening with Bucks cruising mid morning and stuff. But yesterday, that weather change, yes, I mean, I feel like every buck, you can't be everywhere at all times, but you got to feel like every buck that's you'd be after is up on his feet. Just on yesterday afternoon was kind of the perfect storm on that. But then today it was mega cold and cameras were dead for the most part. So I don't know. I love that weather changing like that. When it gets cold and stays cold, I just like it moving. That's just kind of always been my getting warmer, getting colder, just something. It always seems to trigger those deer. And I think yesterday afternoon, like Owen said, they were going to move regardless. The calendar is what it is. They're going to get after it. It just may have been 2 or 3 hours before dark instead of the last hour before dark.
Gotcha. Mike or Chad, either you guys can fight over it. What have you guys been up to?
Chad, why don't you tell us what
Oh
you've been
man,
doing?
hard work around here. I came back south for a couple of days to spend some time in the office, catch up. It's been pretty warm here, about 80 degrees, but the cold front that you guys experienced up there is headed here tomorrow. So we have youth season in, so I'm gonna take my youngest out and see if I can get him. We've got several bucks on our home farm here in Mississippi, and then Sunday I'll be headed back to the Midwest. I still have tags in Illinois and Kansas and Iowa to fill, so I got my work cut out for me moving forward. That's for sure. So, but work comes first, and then we play afterwards. But I think we're to a point now where we can try to spend a little extra time in the tree stand. But I think Mike was able to get out today, wasn't you, Mike?
Yeah, I did. I worked the last 2 days, so since last podcast, I had to get back to the office for a couple of days. But today I went out. I mean, I wanted to be out yesterday, like Jeff was saying, and just the stars were aligning as far as all the conditions. And then today it was, I was making my cameraman cry a little bit with going 35 feet up in a tree and 20-mile winds. He's like, I don't think I ever hunted in a wind chill 13, and so we sat in there until noon. I mean, I went back to the river bottom. I just said, November 11th, going to get in the pinch, just going to get in a good funnel and put our time in. And we've had success doing that. And that same big browed younger buck, the big 8 with the big brows and the big flyer, comes cruising by at 10 yards. And but it was gusty, and compared to the 6th and the 7th and just the constant, all the activity and just some of the best hunts ever, it was pretty slow. I mean, we saw 3-4 does, a few little bucks, and there was one hot doe looked like out in the wetland. I could see there was quite a few bucks messing around, chasing and stuff like that. But then something spooked them. I don't know if a coyote went through there or what, but there's deer started blowing and they all ran off. And this afternoon I went hunt a new farm and just sat over food and saw a few bucks and a few does. So nothing compared to the excitement we experienced, 6th and 7th, but there's still good days ahead. So I'm excited to be out in the tree this weekend.
Are you guys ready for some questions? We put a post out on social media just asking folks for their questions, and we'll get through as many as we can. The first one, I'll open it up to whoever wants to take it. And I'd be interested to hear a couple of your answers. But what would you guys prefer, the last week of October or a specific week in November? If you had to pick one week to hunt, what would you pick?
Well, for me, I think it's so dependent on weather. If you're going to pick October, it's going to have to be a cold front, something cold. Versus November, I mean, the calendar, they're going to do their thing, regardless. Even if it's warm, I'm still going to hunt November. But October, if it's 85 degrees, I definitely am not picking that. But you get the right weather, October will be just as good, sometimes better. So that first week of October this year there was several bucks killable for sure. They were on cam. I wasn't hunting that week, but that'd have been the time to be out there. So for me, it would come down to weather on that.
You know,
Yeah.
I hear you guys talk often, and I think we touched on this on the last podcast. I came down to Iowa a couple of years ago to hunt, and I left Southwest Wisconsin. I think it was around the 1st of November. Just the expectation was I was going to walk into exactly what I left, and what I walked into in southeastern Iowa was what I would say was at least 4 to 8 days behind, what I just got done experiencing in Wisconsin. So I'm interested to hear all of your answers because y'all are south of me. But I would absolutely every time pick that last week of October, regardless of the weather, just because. And I'm basing a lot of that on trail camera pictures. If I go back through the last 4 years of trail camera pictures, the most that I've gotten has been from the 23rd of October through the 4th or 5th, maybe the 6th of November. But by and large, I would say there's more uh, deer, big deer on their feet in daylight on camera, regardless, for me at least in Wisconsin. I don't know if you guys buy into that or not, but that was my observation.
Well, like you said,
Yeah.
Jason, I think you guys are just a little bit ahead of us here. So, if you're 5 days ahead of us, I think that's basically the same thing I'm saying too, only I'm saying November, maybe say 5th,
Right.
and
Yeah.
move that a week out from the 5th. I know Jeff and David, you guys have a good take on that because you see a lot of deer as well.
And you guys are north and south quite a bit, aren't you?
We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where are they at? Yeah, I think he's west here. Where are you at exactly, Owen?
I'd be in Leon area.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're just not far from us at all.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, I'd say the same thing, man. I do like end of October. It just seems like, I'm always busy. I'm always planning for that. We kind of get serious about that 1st of November, really that 5th through the 15th. I'd say we probably drug more big deer out of the woods on the 15th, the actual day, 15th of November. Just the older deer. It just seems like they know they don't get to experience this, November much, and that once they come off those does, they're the last ones still kind of getting after it and really just running their bodies into the ground those last few days. But that 15th through the 20th, the older I get, and I think David, I mean, we talk about this a lot, he probably agree, but that 15th through 20th, I mean, just for just a really old deer is hard to beat that time. But usually, you're either tagged out or burnout come November 20th.
Yeah, that's true.
You're ready to eat some turkey at that point. So
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, we get this question a lot, Jason. Obviously, people say if I had 1 week of vacation take, when would I take it? And I used to live that. I used to look. I'd be in residency, and I was trying to figure out when can I take a week off of work. Now I don't. I take 2 or 3 days off every week so that I can experience it all and try to hit the weather patterns, like Owen was saying. But more than the exact week, more regional, I would say. Do you prefer pre-rut? Do you prefer primary rut, or do you prefer post-rut? I mean, I think it shifts a little bit where you are. And obviously, during the peak of the rut, a lot of those deer could be locked down. I mean, if you're in the right spot, it's the best hunt you ever had. I've always enjoyed the pre-rut, that like the October 29th, 30th, 31st, November 1st through the 3rd, where, they're looking for those first does and you're banging the horns together and the bucks are running in. I mean, that's just been, and I've killed a ton of deer in that time frame. Now obviously hunting more like Jeff said, after everybody's bred and they're looking for the last ones, that week of November can be just killer. Some of the oldest bucks on the farm. But then you look at last year, November 10th, I mean, the deer I was trying to kill forever, he just was between does and I got him in and killed him after 29 days. So I think, just a lot of people, you can just get that where you just have a lot of long, slow days during the primary rut, and that can get boring, sometimes, and so if you're picking one, I always love that pre-rut time, but it can all be good.
Yeah. If you're not there, you're not going to get them, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Chad?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the last week of October, and again, just bouncing off what these other guys have already said. I think a lot of it has to do where you're hunting at in the Midwest. I know I've had my Illinois farm now for 15 years, and going by the just the consistency over those 15 years between the 27th through basically November the 2nd has been our most successful times there. And, being a guy that a lot of times, being down here in the South and, only being able to take, a week at a time and sometimes have a 2-week break in between, being able to go back. I like to go that last week because, especially bow hunting, you want to give yourself the best opportunity to get it done. And I think like Mike was saying, you hit the horns, you hit a little grunt call here or there, they come in and it's not like a big ruckus, if you will, when you get into the middle of November, when they're running and chasing and it's crazy and you're trying to get them to stop, you can't get a shot. So I think, for me personally, and knowing my farm and having the small amount of time to be able to go, I really do like that last week of October.
All right. Well, we got that figured out. Now everybody knows when to take their vacation next year.
Exactly.
This next question comes from Curtis Masterson. He actually had two questions. One we can touch on really easy, and I'll do that one last. But he asked, "Where's the best places to hunt during lockdown? Is it, alfalfa, beans, corn? What do you guys prefer during lockdown?"
He's talking about food sources in general or just best places
Yep.
in general? That's what it says. None of the above, all of the above.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Hey,
you've been talking about funnels and pinch points.
you're not sitting in a field.
Right in the middle.
Okay, so
Yeah, so
then,
I can talk more about it. I mean, I think anytime really in the rut, particularly in the lockdown, what you're trying to do here, is most of your does are in estrus, and a lot of your mature bucks will be locked down with those, and because there's a lot of them in ready to breed, and so you're trying to catch your bucks, basically in between breeding does, and the best place to do that is some sort of pinch point, particularly for bow hunting. Knowing your property and where you're hunting is important, but seems like the highest likelihood, whether it's morning or afternoon, is sitting somewhere where the deer funnel down, and that's different. We talked about that in previous podcasts. Like it's different for different farms, but between two bedding areas is a concept where bucks might cruise, or between bedding and food. Obviously, some of those does are still working out to go feed if they can hide from all the harassment. But getting in a funnel or a pinch point, locked down, and hoping that your buck comes cruising by.
Yeah,
his other question was just about what video camera to use, and I'm just going to turn that over to Gavin and let him answer that directly, if that's all right with you guys. I'm sure we all have a different camera and whatever.
That's a
Really
great
quick
idea.
though, you mentioned, and we've talked about this a couple times now on, it seems like just about every podcast, but we talk about funnels and pinch points, and I'm guessing it means the same thing to most of us, but it really is dependent upon the kind of terrain that you're hunting. And I think we had a short discussion about it last time, or maybe it was the podcast before. But what when you're talking about funnels or pinch points, what Jeff specifically, I guess I'll ask you, what would you consider your best funnel or pinch point if you could sort of draw it up and for us, not necessarily on paper, but explain what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I just like a saddle in the timber or a ridge top. I like ridge tops in the rut that just kind of funnel deer and lock down. I mean, talking about lockdown, there's so many people have just painted lockdown as the worst time to ever be in the woods, and it is bad. But I mean, we killed a lot of bucks locked down because the does still got to move. They got to get up. They're moving around a little bit. And the bucks are pushing them around, trying to get away from other bucks. So we've had a lot of success, just on ridge tops, just stands that right off bedding or right off thick spots, close to ditches where, it seems like these big bucks up here, we got a lot of rolling terrain. They always want to get that doe down in a ditch or real close to it where we can kind of, hem her up or keep his eye on her and keep the other bucks away. So I just like ridge tops personally.
Anybody else have an opinion?
Well,
The only
we got a lot of things that we like to do too. We got some ridges that run east and west, and a lot of times, if you've got a south wind, you can catch those bucks cruising the edge of that south end of that ridge, trying to, catch those does down in there. Just smell those does in those bottoms and stuff like that, or pinched in tight, and that works real good for us in a lot of places too.
Yeah, I've noticed more often than not. It seems like I've had the opportunity to like observe some does heading out to food. Maybe it's late October, early November. You just see some of those bucks just kind of paralleling them downwind as they're moving, towards the food source, and then they'll get done with one group and head back, and pretty soon here they come back again with another group.
And they're not all going to be locked down at the same time. That's the thing. So
Right.
you just got to catch them one or two does. It's in estrus at the right time, or that buck's after, and you're in the money.
Yeah, got to be out there.
You got to stay.
Owen, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, in regards to our last conversation, Jason, we were talking about the big woods, and I'm a big fan of going into it with maps. Topographical maps, like in your case, would be a huge asset. I like to go through everything with a topographical map, and most of the time I can pinpoint really good spots from right there. And then, of course, I want to scout it. I want to see it in person too. But a lot of times you can find the best spot to be right there looking at those maps. You might not jump off the page like an aerial, like it would, broken farm country where we're at. Aerials are really good, but the topographical maps are something you should look at, like in your area where it's big woods.
Yeah, one resource that I found, we all use Onyx, or whatever app it is that you use. I like Onyx. But in the real estate business, I deal with the NRCS a lot, and I got to sit down with one of the guys that I deal with at the NRCS office and look at some of their topo maps, and it's pretty interesting how defined those maps are versus other stuff that you see published. When I looked at one, particularly on my place in southwestern Wisconsin, I was able to find just, you might have a good ridge like you guys are talking about, but maybe there's a terrain feature on that ridge that isn't normally going to show on an Onyx map or any topographical map. But if you can get into one of those guys' office and take a peek at their computer, it's a pretty slick system.
Yeah, their topo lines are, more frequent. So it shows the features, but
I don't remember how many feet it was, but it wasn't what I was used to looking at. I'm like, what are all these lines?
Yeah, I would second
to the south. There was no such thing as lines. It's
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I'm from Louisiana. Hunting in the swamp, there is no elevation change.
I grew up reading North American Whitetail and all these pinch points and saddles and this, that, and I didn't understand it. Then when I stepped foot in the Midwest, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. I need to go back and read all these articles from all these smart hunters over the years that I couldn't really picture in my mind's eye what they were talking about.
Yeah. I would echo what Jeff said about ridge tops, and like what Owen said a couple podcasts ago about the head of a ditch or something on that terrain feature that get the deer to walk around. I've got a couple farms that they're referring to where there's lots of topography, but where I've been hunting all this year for this buck I call Kelsey it's a river bottom. I mean, it's a wetland. The whole thing is flat. So certainly, or like down in the south where I grew up in Louisiana in the swamp. I mean, you look for one little 1 foot rise of where there was less water or a dry spot, where the deer would tend to walk more. A lot of that's boots on the ground kind of stuff, but like on the river bottom, if there's a narrow strip of timber or cover, that might be where they all tend to want to funnel through. Mostly what I've hunted on my particular piece of ground is the river edge, and then if I can get another ditch or slough that is paralleling it, that kind of thing is what I've hunted for a more unique, I think, harder to appreciate type of funnel, because they don't work as well as a ridge or a head of a ditch because they can walk wherever they want, but they tend to stick to some of those features.
Anybody else got anything to add? And then I'll jump to the next one, if that's all right. This is a great one.
Let's go for it.
Do you focus on um, trail camera intel doe groups heading into November, or are you still focusing on your target deer? Owen.
Both. For me, I generally know where my doe groups tend to be. I keep food sources about the same areas, so I know where these doe groups are. And then I'm taking the intel that I've learned about that buck, all of October where he's been staying. So I'm probably trying to hunt that doe group next to or closest to where he's at most of the time. That would be what I would focus on.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, in a way, it kind of depends on exact time of year. Obviously, end of October, early November, particularly in the afternoon. I mean, you say the bucks are going to be where the does are. You're looking at where they're bedding in the morning, or two bedding areas, and sitting between them as we get further into rut. Where the does are going out to feed. Like Owen said, historical information about a buck. I mean, all this stuff is very important. But then, like right now, I feel like trail cameras are basically useless. Right. I mean, the trail cameras go dead. I mean, the bucks are locked down with those. I mean, you might catch them on a gap or something. It's not like they're working scrapes and things like that. So a lot of that is what we see and what we know about our property.
Yeah, a good point to that, Mike, is I haven't had a picture of that wide nine since October 30th when we actually saw him. And I
Yeah.
went down and just hunted him where we were hunting him in October. And lo and behold, there he was.
And history. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we get too caught up with putting too much information on trail cameras. It's like you got a camera on every tree. So uh, sometimes you got to step back and say, I know he's in there. Like, let me go to my good spot and sit there, and keep the odds. The odds are there's still a possibility of crossing, even if they haven't had a daylight photo or whatever it is.
Yeah, and we believe in annual dates on bucks. That's why I've been a couple deer I was after this year. I'm going back far back as I thought they were alive, and I was like, where were they on this day? And I don't feel like they're coming back the exact same spot, exact same minute, but I do feel like that bucks over time. Whether they're falling in love with a certain doe or doe grouper, they're going to come back to those spots. And if you go back and look at your trail cam history, granted you're running them in the same spot, it's amazed that certain bucks that may not be their home core, or you may not even know the deer, but they seem to come back to that spot every year, and usually it's within 2 or 3 days. So
It's an
that's
amazing
what
pattern. Yeah, I agree.
it really is. That
It's
always
amazing.
blows my mind. Like it's like they have the calendar or their outlook just remind them, all right,
Yeah,
guys, you got to go head to the
yeah,
40 rooftop. You got to show up in two
yeah.
days.
Northwest Doe Group. Okay, November 2nd. Be there.
This is getting easier and easier by the minute. Um,
Exactly.
right.
Just I hope they're taking notes, Jason.
Yeah, right, exactly. Chad, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of echo, what the guys say. I don't put too much merit into cameras this time of the year, regardless. One of the approaches I basically take is once you're moving into the rut and the rut's in full swing, I just try to find a centralized location between my food sources, just because I know that the does that are not being tended are going to be close to those food sources or somewhere in the middle. So if I can centralize myself and my stand placement in that centralized location, whether it be on a ridge top and then a food source to the east and the west, and I'll try to do that. But again, I think a lot of it just goes back to your farm and how your farm lays and those kinds of things. But I don't put too much merit in the cameras at all. I just kind of focus on the centralized locations of all the food sources that I have, based off of where I think the deer are bedding.
I think yeah, this time of year we just look at cameras because it's entertaining. I don't think you're gonna get any super useful info from them right around now. I don't know if you guys disagree with that or not, but I don't put a whole lot of stock into, oh my gosh, I saw him on that trail camera. I've got to go hunt him there tomorrow. He probably ain't going to be there tomorrow. He might be in the area. That area might be pretty big, but I don't know if you
I
guys
like
agree
it
with that.
if I get a picture, I know they're still alive.
That's us.
True.
That's why we're running trail cams right now.
Yeah.
Dave's
Right.
hunting. he shouts out from the dinner table tonight, here he is. You know, we hadn't seen him in what, 7 days or something.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I'll kind of go against the grain a little bit on this. I'm really, like, this time of year right now, I'm really on my cameras. And I'll tell you why. Because when that buck leaves, I know he's going to be gone for 48 or 72 hours. And I don't want to go spend a lot of time in there when that buck's been gone for 4 or 5 days. And if I'm monitoring those cameras, I'm going to focus on another deer somewhere else. When he starts showing back up on cameras, then I know he's in that area. And just like what you said a minute ago, I'm going to go in there and spend time in there because I know he's in that area. Hope I get lucky. But if he's not on that camera and he's not showing up, especially what this deer that I'm hunting's been doing all summer, he's been. So on the 4th of November, he disappeared and he showed back up last night. So I could have been wasting my time in there or I couldn't, you know. I spent some time in other areas hunting some other deer and I passed some really good deer, but that deer's still on my mind. So this morning when I started looking at my camera before I went to hunt, I was going to a different spot. And when he was on that camera, I changed directions. So I found out this afternoon. Well, we went in hunting this morning. It was really slow. I got down and then I went back in about 10:30. We hunted to almost 2. We actually used a decoy and got on a big ridge and we had really good activity. And we've had good activity midday for the last few days. And then this afternoon, I went back in there where he was at and I really basically got into a real good bedding area. And we had bucks chasing does through there, even with that wind blowing, about to blow us out of a tree and as cold as it was. I mean, we had some really good activity. And so when I got back to the house, here I go on my trail camera, and he was 200 yards away from me on a camera. So, I mean, that's telling me he don't have a doe, you know. And then I look, and he's on a cornfield right at dark, not far. So I know he's going to be looking for a doe hot and heavy, and I'm going to be back in there in the morning first thing.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good
just the
point.
way, you know, I look at them a lot, and I just kind of focus a lot of stuff on what I'm doing. But I'm hunting a particular deer, just like you was on that. I guess the wide 9, he wasn't showing up, but my deer is. So hey, I'm going in full force. Hope I get lucky.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to say that's a really good point, David. It has the potential to tell you when they're between does, which is super important. If you know that, you know to be there, you know. So
Yeah.
that's a great point.
Um, Next question. Um, Best strategies for post rut gun season, and hunting pressured deer after the army of oranges done doing what what happens after the gun season.
On one hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
On one hungry and get on some food if you got it.
Get
That's
yourself
right.
a 10-acre standing
10 acre.
cornfield and
There you go.
sit your butt down. And yeah, we've got one that and our deer density is really high in that area. But we leave 10 acres just standing, and we've got a muddy bowl in the center of it. Just it's amazing how many deer when it gets cold, regardless of what kind of pressure they've had, when it gets really cold and they need to eat, they're going to be there. I mean,
Absolutely.
two years ago during the Wisconsin gun season, one of my partners on one of the properties was hunting a specific deer, and he uh, he kept wanting to go in the morning. He's relatively new to hunting. I think maybe this is his 4th or 5th year. Um, and we kept telling him, don't go out there in the morning. You're just going to blow him out of there if he's in there. Cause I'd get the trail camera pics and I'd shoot him out to the guys, and he was always there in the morning. And we told him not to go, and one goal, he decided to go anyway, crawled in there. It's pretty good access as the wind's right. Fill up rails through the middle of the cornfield. Feel very soft. And he crawled on his hands and knees and got in there. Food is a big deal, especially when it gets cold.
Yeah, that's probably the most
Um,
important factor.
yeah. All right. Um, how high are you guys in the stand? And Um, what equipment are you using to get that high?
Not as high as Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Every time he
Nobody
says
is.
30, I don't know.
People
Are
from
you sure?
Louisiana are different, man.
I haven't always
35.
been that way.
No, that's it's what you grew up doing. I mean, I'm not really scared of heights, but I don't know, man. I was hunting a stand 2 nights ago. I was probably 27, 28 feet, and that's as high as I don't know. I don't feel comfortable getting. That's as high as we got one hung, I guess. So I'm typically in that 18 to 22 range, I would say.
There's
Or
a
where
reason
the
most of
cover
that's the
is.
sticks are 20 feet.
Yep.
But I grew up using a climber, and I mean, all the trees in the swamp, they're telephone poles, and you got to get out of the sight of the deer. There's no cover on
Oh,
the
yeah.
keep going up. And now I've modified my height based on how many people I'm hiding in the tree and how good they are at jumping jacks. But having two people and everything moving, I got some sets that are just normal 20 feet, but I've got a handful of them that are 35, for sure. And yeah, when my pull up rope doesn't touch the ground anymore, or
Your
but
bow's calling you up, just kind of trailing you up the stand.
and the worst ones where the camera guys get a little twitchy. If you got to go about 6 feet up to clip into the lifeline, they're like, God dang.
At least
But
you're using lifelines. I'll give you
using lifelines,
that.
yeah, that's for sure. All of them got lifelines, and it's funny. Like the pinch just said I hunted this morning. I mean, it's a cottonwood tree. There's not a branch on the darn thing. And that set of timber is pretty older growth. There's not a lot of understory, and they just filter through there. It's really open. I mean, they can see you from 100 yards away, but I get really high. They just don't look that high. And it also helps me with my scent. I mean, I got a lot of deer that come within 20 yards of that tree, and I just blow it over them when they're downwind. It works pretty well in that setup. So it's situational. They're not all 35. I have one from last year called the Skybox, though. That one was up there. Made your palms sweat a little bit.
Oh, man.
Sounds like keeping it exciting. They asked about equipment, and I'm not quite sure if they're talking about tree stands or anything, specific like that. But I would say probably the most, I guess, what would you say the most important part of a piece of equipment is, other than the obvious stuff? Is it a rangefinder when you're up that high? Because obviously that can skew what you're used to identifying as a particular amount of yardage. It gets tricky when you're up
Yeah,
there, doesn't it?
that's probably the most challenging thing is learning how to shoot at that angle. And I think that comes from practice. I mean, when I shot Dak last year at 7 yards, I mean, I was basically aiming below his body, and I still hit him high, but that's just knowing your bow and knowing what is happening. That's just practicing because we probably have all done it. We certainly have heard of people doing it where you get a deer real close to you and you shoot over their back, and it's to do that. So I interpreted his question about equipment as maybe what you use for sticks and climbers and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I mentioned climbers in the South with beanpole trees or telephone pole type trees. Here I do hanging hunts, and I like them. I like a mobile set, lightweight aluminum sticks, and I got a muddy Vantage aluminum stand. Those little quick 2-rail sticks that I can run up a tree pretty quick and hang a set. A lot of people say, "Man, why do you hang a set every time you go?" I like being mobile. I like the surprise of a new tree. I've got plenty of permanent sets after I learn a farm, and I like the big sticks that stick off the tree, but I can get up a curvy one or with branches, not by using a ladder stand. I mean, I don't have many ladders. I like the sticks and then the big steel platforms if it's going to be a permanent set. But a good rangefinder with angle compensation is hard to beat.
Jeff, I've got a specific question for you. Um, how does Jeff stay in such good shape during the fall after endless little W's?
I think that's more for what Instagram or social media is pinned on me. I didn't really choose to choose that. My cameraman now, he eats all of them, but no, we do eat our share of snacks. We do eat a lot, and considering our size, but I don't know, we're pretty active. We don't.
He's actually cut back a lot this year. He's doing real good.
Yeah, about 2.5 weeks of elk hunting.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Shape, so I'm pretty good. I don't eat as many snacks as it appears. I'll say that. I can't.
There's you burn calories dragging them big bucks out though, so it's okay.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The more you eat, you don't want to drag them. You want to get the proper spoiler as close as you can to them.
What's your favorite
snack?
Jeff? Yep.
It's we got to break that down between a morning or evening hunt. So
let's go with morning.
Yeah, I don't know. Here lately, I've kind of been on a Uncrustables kick. I'll take a banana and Uncrustable or Uncrustable, and then in the evening, it's I don't know. It's usually maybe a Little Debbie, some type of variety, or Christmas tree cake or something like that.
There you go.
He's honestly the snack king. He's the apple pies, and what else do you like?
Oh, that's it.
Apple pie.
The whole apple pie.
The whole apple pie.
Oh, just like a little Debbie snack pies.
Oh.
We kind of bounce around a lot, really.
We do, in fruit too. We eat a lot of fruit. We gotta keep it a little healthy. It can't all be just calories and sugar.
That's right. Especially if you're going to keep elk hunting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's the first thing you do. You take the grandkids hunting, the first thing that they want. So you might as well just stop at the store and get it.
Yeah.
They're going to want a snack, and they're going to want some candy or something. That's just what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah, I can take my son hunting, and my daughter's even worse than him, but I take them hunting. I mean, if we're hunting redneck blind, I don't even have the door shut good, and they got my pack open, looking in there, and like, do we come here to eat or do we come here to hunt? What are we doing?
Same thing with me. That's right. I get hot chocolate, I get a snack, and maybe even get to play on a game on the phone or something. That's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Don't have mama fussing at me. Daddy, let me do whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got one last question as we're running out of time here. And I guess I'd like each of you to answer it, if you don't mind. In your opinion, going forward, the 11th through the 20th, what's the best tactic?
I can start. I mean, obviously, the first half of that, it's still rut, and I mean, I'd still be sitting in funnels and pinches, but as we get more post rut, I switched more to food. And I quit hunting mornings at some point. They're not running and chasing as much, and maybe the 20th you'll still get some stuff out there, but I transitioned more to food sources the later we get into November and taking mornings off to keep it short and simple.
Jeff?
Yeah, our last mornings for the Midwest will probably be sometime this Illinois gun season, that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we're definitely concentrating on food, and because the way that Illinois hits always on the third weekend, it's November at sometime, between the 17th, 18th to 22nd, 24th, and those deer, they still got a fair amount of rut in them, and there's still some does coming in estrus, but they're also thinking about food, they're refueling, so it's almost a perfect storm, and it's a very deadly season, obviously, for Illinois. They backed that up about a week, they'd save half their mature bucks, but so we're definitely concentrating on food at that season and from there on out, unless we're hunting south.
David, the same for you?
Yeah, pretty much. My theory is always this way: you can't kill them if you're not there. So if I have, my best tactic is spend as much time as if you hadn't harvested your deer yet, spend as much time as you can. Be smart, like Mike said. Think about the food as we get closer to the end of the month. Right now, the bucks are still running hard. You never know where they're going to show up. And just anywhere you can be in a good funnel or close to a good bedding area is a good spot to be.
Chad, how about you, specifically down in the South there?
Oh, down in the South, that time of the year, we're still praying for the rut to get here. Our rut don't hit till about Christmas. So usually that time of the year, we're not even hunting mornings. We're just hunting afternoons, sitting on food. But, I got a farm not too far from Jeff and those guys in Illinois. And, I just echo the same thing they say. I think you get on the food and I think, as he said earlier in the podcast, those mature deer trying to get those last couple of does before this thing ends. And, I think if you can find a good food source, you got a really, really good chance of killing a mature buck between the 11th and the 15th.
Owen, how about you?
Oh, I would just echo what the other guys said. I mean, I'm not going to get away from the funnels. I'm basically going to hunt it the same that I am right now. So in the evenings, I'm going to hunt near food, but I want a funnel there. And then in the mornings, I'll be closer to cover usually, but still want to be hunting some kind of a funnel area.
I think the answer is the same every year. I think, at times we, some of us can lose confidence in maybe the plan that you had, but kind of it kind of speaks to what David said, and that's that you got to be out there, make good decisions, and make informed decisions, and be out there, particularly in the right spot. That's my advice.
It's so simple.
Yeah, it sounds easy.
Yeah. Booners everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Does anybody have anything else before we start to wrap it up?
No, I would just say, hunting's definitely been good. We've got a lot of pro staff members who have been successful. Collins Marine got it done tonight as well, and hopefully we'll be able to share that hunt with our viewers here in the near future. So, now's the time to be in the woods, and we're excited to be able to continue to share our stories, from the Midwest Whitetail side across the board, as a team.
Cool.
Yeah, I
Jeff
just
and David,
appreciate everybody getting on, and I want to just say thank you to Jeff and David for joining us. It's always fun to talk deer camp.
Thank you.
Yeah, although we're all on different or we're on different shows. You guys, 41 North has a relationship with the Lindsey Way, and they produce the YouTube channel, right?
Yep,
right.
That is correct. Yeah, very thankful to have that relationship and friendship with those guys.
Get a whole bunch of us in a room together, and we could probably spend a week trading stories. But thanks, guys, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and give us some of your wisdom. We certainly appreciate that. It's nice to see that everybody in this industry, to some degree or another, works together and shares as much information as possible. So if nobody's got anything else, I think we're good for tonight. Anybody else?
Awesome. Good night,
Final
guys.
words. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up. We're out.
Look, fellas, appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Anybody have anything they need from me?
Got a stack of hundreds.
I didn't sell a farm today.
Maybe tomorrow. Good luck.
Right. I'll need it. Okay.
Shoot some mallards, huh? You shooting some mallards?
Man, are they pouring in? It's just, all you can hear is ducks.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we're lucky. We're lucky with that spot, though. It's got to be the only flooded cornfield in the entire state of Wisconsin.
It should be illegal in the middle of November, Jason.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said that should be illegal in the middle of November. You can't go duck hunting. Come on.
I got a lab that's laying here that's looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And I don't have a tag till next weekend, so
Against the law.
I guess when you tag out, got to do something.
come on up. We'll have a good time. All right. Well, I'll get to producing this thing and get it shot over to Gavin. And again, Jeff and David, thanks, and the rest of you for your time. And we'll do another one here soon. Get out there and
good.
Mike and Chad, you're due, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And David.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm due.
All right.
We'd
All
definitely love to have you guys on, Jeff and David. If you guys want to join us again, we'd love to have you back anytime.
Oh yeah, we enjoyed it. It's a great idea. I like this Zoom
Yeah,
deal.
it's a cool format. Just because it's really real time, and that's kind of what Midwest Whitetail's kind of always been about. But I get a lot of feedback from folks that pick up as much as we think we know. You pick up just that one little thing, maybe that makes a difference, or maybe it just gives you a little bit more confidence than what you had prior to listening to it.
Yeah, heck, I learned
It's
something
just,
tonight.
yeah.
So.
I mean, just so you guys know, every little bit helps, and I do get stuff often that people would comment on, something that maybe none of us would have even thought of as a big deal that they thought was a big deal, and it's cool. It's cool to know that you're able to give some advice to folks that give them a little bit more confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Devin, it was good to see you tonight too, bud. I hadn't spoke to you yet, but it was good to have you on with us.
In a minute. Thanks for having me.
Make sure that that Owen picks you a good one out now that he's tagged out. Teach him how to run that camera.
I'll get them old 11 pointers going for you guys. Yeah.
All right, guys, have a good night. Be safe.
Yeah.
All right,
you
fellas,
too.
we'll see you.
Thanks, y'all too.
All right, thanks.